Hey, what's up everyone? Mendel here. Hope you are doing awesome and wonderful. So today I'm going to show you how I create a modern metal studio quality, whatever you want to name it, guitar tone. And I'm going to capture it with the new ToneX version 2. And I'm going to include something special or something unique that I do very often is bake in the signal chain into the guitar tone. So it's a bit more polished or studio or mix ready. So before I forget, this video is sponsored by Sweetwater. Sweetwater, thank you so much for sponsoring this video. And let's first talk about the signal chain. And I'm going to tell you all the goods we're going to do this, but it starts with the signal chain. Here we go. Let's start with the signal chain. Here we go. All right, so let's talk about the signal chain. First of all, my guitar is plugged straight into the high Z input of my interface. Then there's going a cable from the line out output of my interface into the ToneX capture box. You can use any reamp box. In this case, I use the ToneX capture box. You can use any reamp box, but you need to convert the line out signal into high Z signal. There's a cable going from the box into the front of the amp, and you can put a boost pedal in between if you want. That's fully up to you. Then I take the output of the amp into my load box. In this case, it's the Red 7 amp central load box. It's so far the best one I've tested, but you can also use a cab with a mic in front of it. Up to you. Then I take a line out cable because that bypasses the DAC, the digital audio conversion of the load box. I take a line out cable that goes back into my interface into the line in. And here's where we do something special. I route that signal into Cubase or any DAW of choice. You can use Pro Tools or Studio One or Logic, whatever. In this case, I'm a Cubase user. I route that signal from my load box into Cubase because then I can kind of add impulses, but also kind of mix the tone. So add some EQ, add some low end, make the tone a bit thicker, clean it up, remove those annoying cab resonant frequencies, and then eventually send that signal back into ToneX. Now my interface, which is the Universal Apollo X4, and all Apollo interfaces have this, but I think your interface, I think most interfaces have it these days, have a virtual channel. So I use the virtual channel to route it from Cubase back into ToneX. So what basically happens is I can monitor the amp in real time because it's plugged into my interface, and through the signal from the line out back into the capture box going into the amp, I can just play through the amp. That's also the signal that ToneX is going to use to send out of the interface, through the amp, into the load box, out of the load box, back into the interface, into Cubase, back into itself, just back into ToneX. And then we have the mixing chain basically in between right before it goes back into ToneX. So how does this differ? Normally, when you do a capture, it's just the amp and the cab. But what I like to do very often, I would say 99% of the time, is right before it goes back into ToneX, I just route the signal into Cubase, like I said, and I mix it. I can do tape, how do you call it? Like virtual tape machines, different equalizers like SSL, Studio Equalizer, Neve, or API. I really like API and SSL. And basically get this more polished tone rather than a fully dry signal. Which hey, there are no rules in this. I just like to clean the tone up a tiny bit so it's a bit more pleasing to the ears and perhaps a bit thicker because I added some low end in there. All right, having all that said, here we go. So the amp we're going to capture today is probably by now my favorite amp. It's the EVA's 5153 Stealth EL34. Depth knob on the back is on 3 o'clock, and I have these settings. I checked these settings before hitting record. I like how these settings sound. That's basically it. It's an easy to dial in amp. For me, it works every time. So now let's go into the computer. Sound like a boomer saying that. Let's go into the computer and talk more a bit about the signal and the mixing we're going to do inside the box. One quick disclaimer, if you have analog outboard gear, you can also put that into the signal chain, of course, and then go into Cubase to do even more tweaking, like with Pro Q4 or anything. Anyway, here we go. All right, so here we are in my DAW of choice. This is Cubase, and as you can see, I have two channels here, a DI channel and an amp channel. And I pre-recorded the riff because at the end of the video, I just want to compare how good the ToneX V2 sounds versus the real amp. Just a quick comparison at the end. So what we have here now is my DI signal. So as you can see, this is my inputs and outputs. DI is just my high Z input number 1. So like I said, the guitar cable plugs straight into my interface. Over here you can see 2 amp. So that's the output, 2 amp. That's the line output, so there's a cable from my line output going into the ToneX capture box. Attenuation is all to 0 dB. Going from the capture box into the amp, into the load box, back into the line in of my interface. I have an input made here called amp, and that's just the line in number 3, which is this right here. And technically, this is where the magic happens. So I'm gonna shape the tone a bit and then send it into Cubase, so Cubase will capture the entire mixing chain, so baking the post-processing into the tone. And here I have my favorite impulse response loader called Cabinetron. I've loaded up 2 mics from a cool new cab we captured from a cool year. Maybe it's a Mesa cab, who knows? But this is gonna be a cool new thing. It sounds pretty cool in my opinion. Cool. An SM57 and an SM7B. The reason I like Cabinetron, by the way, is I can load multiple impulse responses, just right click, phase align all of them, and you have like a mixer here. The more impulse you put in here, you get like a big matrix. Lovely, lovely piece of software. So this is the tone we have. That sounds pretty beefy to me. I think I'm gonna up the gain a tiny bit. Okay, since I upped the gain a tiny bit, let me quickly reamp this part over here. So when we compare it later, it's still accurate, so there's no gain difference. Okay, that sounds pretty beefy. It's a lot of gain, so I'm not sure if the ToneX V2 will be able to capture that accurately, but I think normally I would do less gain, to be honest. But this just sounds very mean, sounds very cool. Alright, so now we get to the point where the magic happens. Now we're gonna add post-processing, which ToneX will bake into the tone. So first of all, sometimes I like to use this thing, this virtual mix rack virtual channel from Slate, and I'm just gonna see what sounds best. In this case, I like the Neve Brit. I guess that's a Neve. It feels that it brings the amp a bit more up front. Now let's add like an SSL type of EQ. I really like the Waves SSL type EQ. And first, let's remove some of that high cap fizziness. And what I like to do sometimes is remove the high fizziness and then just boost like the upper frequencies. So over here, like 5 kilohertz, maybe 1 decibel is enough. So before and after. And again, this is not something you have to do. you can leave out the filtering and stuff. But in this case, I like to use the filter and boost some here. Now, one thing I almost do every single time is boost some upper mids. First, I'm going to exaggerate it, find a sweet spot, then reduce it. Because in my opinion, the upper mids, like 1 kilohertz, maybe a bit below that, a bit above it, is like the tone zone, if that makes any sense. Something like that. Again, doing before and after. That sounds good to me. And even though this guitar tone already has some low end, like Malmsteen said, more is more. Let's add some low end beefiness. That's bypassed. Maybe I don't need a high shelf as much. Let's put it a tiny bit down. So again, this is the tone without the processing. This is with the processing. I'm gonna play through it just to see how it feels as well. Sounds pretty beefy. Now to finalize it a tiny bit, let's add a EQ like Pro Q4. And what I'm gonna do here is cut a tiny bit of mids, maybe the lower mids, and remove some cap, like nasally frequencies. That's something I think is ear piercing, not pleasant, so I'm gonna reduce that. And some 3K, 4K. That's what I'm hearing when the guitar's playing. Let's do them before and after. That definitely makes guitar tone just a tad smoother, and let's focus on the mids now. Maybe some mids. Let's bypass it. A bit honky. More smooth, definitely better. It also feels like there's more weight added because I'm cutting out some junk. I need to be careful not to cut too much though. We don't want to lose too much of this. Okay, again, before, after, before, then it sounds better to me. I think this is a pretty beefy, cool modern metal tone. A lot of low end, but I can always cut off the low end later on in the mix. I think it's inspiring to play. It sounds really heavy. I think that sounds pretty cool. Okay, let's capture it. Alright, so here we have the new ToneX modeler, which is now a separate application. What we're gonna do is we're gonna press new capture here. I have it on guitar, amp and cab. And I had to do something different with the routing because for some reason I couldn't get it to work anymore with my virtual channels. Normally how I would do this is from Cubase, I would send the amp out to a virtual channel and then use the virtual channel as an input. So I wouldn't have extra digital audio digital conversion. For some reason, I couldn't get it to work anymore. I have no idea. I just sold my X8 because I'm gonna update the interface. Maybe there's something with the settings, I don't know. But I have a workaround. So what I now am doing is I have a output line 4, just a jack cable going from the line out, in this case line out 4, back into a line in 4. So I'm basically patching it back into my interface, which works. So hey, that and it sounds great. So that's the most important thing. But normally how I would do this is use like the virtual channels of my Apollo interface. So then you press next, check our input level. That's fine. We don't need an IR because we have IR built in. And of course we're doing the mixing here in a Cubase. And now we have our tone. Also, one quick note, I reduced the low end from 7 decibels to 6 because I thought it was just a tiny bit too much. But I forgot to record that because I was like, not per se panicking, but like, why aren't my virtual channels working? So just so you know, that's the case. So this is our tone we're gonna capture. Okay, then we press next. We can press capture and then while it's capturing, fill in the data. Alright, so it's done capturing, and the awesome thing with ToneX Modeler is we can do batch capturing. So I'm gonna press save, there we go. So we'll go to the main view now, and here it is. And now what I can do is, because my buddy Hjalmar is the lifesaver of the video today, I can send this capture to my buddy Hjalmar because he has a very good NVIDIA graphics card. So instead of a high quality training here, which takes 2 hours on my Mac, for him it takes like 7 minutes or 10 minutes. One thing you need to do now, in my opinion, is if you want to have the highest quality, on the top right, you can see optimized training or extended training. I always do extended training. So I can go to captures folder right here. And as you can see, here's the capture. So this folder I'm gonna send to my buddy Hjalmar. He can train it on his future machine, on this future PC. Train the capture, send it back to me, and then it should be done. All right, so I just got the captures from Hjalmar. Again, big thanks Hjalmar for training this so quickly and sending them over. So I've loaded up the final captures here in ToneX. I made 3 captures. One is the actual tone I'm going to listen to. I also made a raw tone, so without the post-processing, just the cabs. and a direct capture so you can put your own cab or impulses after it. I've bundled these 3 captures together and put them on my Patreon, links in the description box down below. Again, this is the DI signal running through ToneX live, and over here we have the original amp reamp signal. So it's the same performance, but this is the real amp and this is DI with the ToneX plugin. Let's start with the real amp and then I'll switch between ToneX and the real amp. Here we go. I mean, that's super close. That's really, 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 really close. And how cool is it that we have the signal chain or the post-processing with the plugins baked into the tone. So this is how it sounds out of the box. The only thing I would say, there is just a tiny, but it's, I mean, I think in a mix no one would notice, but there's this tiny nasally thing where I could pick out that it's the ToneX. Doing a quick blind test here, I'm just gonna click a couple of times and close my eyes. Here we go. This is a real amp. Yeah, okay. So there's a certain fidelity on the real that I could pick out. Okay, that's a real amp. But I mean, this is so super close. Just for fun, let's check out the raw. I mean, it's insanely close. Insanely close. Okay, so that's it for this video. I'm super stoked. I'm super happy with this tone. Again, if you dig these tones, they're in the link in the description box down below to my Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. It's super nerdy and in-depth, but hey, I hope you like that kind of stuff. If you like that kind of stuff, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the belly thing. That'd be much appreciated. And you know what? See you next time. Cheers.